Acceleration. Right, we turn now to item 9 on the agenda, which is the operation of the Cancer Drugs Fund. Could I just check, first of all, the paper was circulated later than we would have wished because the consultation didn't close until last Friday, so the paper has come through on the back of the consultation. Can I just check that every member of the board has had the opportunity to read the two papers that they've got? Okay, may I then invite Bruce Keogh to introduce it? Bruce.
Thank you very much, Chair. Given that everybody's read the paper, I'll be relatively brief. You will have had two papers, one outlining a set of proposals from the Cancer Drugs Fund panel, and a second paper summarising responses to a consultation. So, from my perspective, cancer is a devastating disease and touches most families one way or another in this country. And the Cancer Drugs Fund was established in 2010 to address some very specific issues around the availability of drugs for rare cancers and those drugs which had failed a NICE approval for one reason or another. And the Cancer Drugs Fund is overseen by a panel of expert oncologists, pharmacists, and lay experts in cancer. And since its inception, demand on the Cancer Drugs Fund has continued to increase, partly because of new drugs, partly because of new indications for old drugs that were already in the panel, partly because NICE has turned down some more cancer drugs, and the end result has been an escalating cost, not just for the panel but also per patient. And despite announcing an increase in the amount of money available for the Cancer Drugs Fund from 200 million a year to 280 million a year, this increase in demand is likely to result in a significant overspend. So the Cancer Drugs Fund panel have put forward proposals which are detailed in the paper to reevaluate drugs, not just in terms of their clinical effectiveness or clinical benefit, but also in relation to their cost. And they propose removing drugs from the list in the panel that are less, broadly speaking, that are less effective, in order to create headroom for newer, more effective and more innovative drugs to become available routinely to those people who need them. Now, there are some very core protections which are in place as a consequence of this consultation. The first is that no drug will be removed from the panel if it is the only drug available for treating a particular condition. The second is that anybody receiving a particular drug through the panel will continue to receive it for as long as they need it. But most importantly, and this is really an important point, is that inclusion in the Cancer Drugs Fund list means that a drug is just routinely available. If it's removed from the list, that does not mean it is not available. It simply means that the consultant oncologist, on behalf of the patient, will submit his opinion for the need for that drug to the Cancer Drugs Fund panel, who themselves consist of a set of experts who will either agree or disagree that that's the appropriate treatment for a given patient. And that's called an independent funding request. The other point that's worth making is that the fund was established early on to help deal with issues of treatment for people with rare cancers where there might not be enough evidence to support their use in a conventional way. And the Cancer Drugs Fund panel reassure us that that protection for the treatment of people with rare cancers will remain. So the consultation, as the chairman alluded to, closed last Friday. There were 189 responses that are summarized in the attached paper. Although variable, there was, broadly speaking, support for a review of the Cancer Drugs Fund. But there were some specific points also that were drawn out, and the analysis isn't complete yet. One was that people wanted to see a sustainable system. The second was that they wanted to, where possible, avoid duplication or crossover of the work with NICE. And thirdly, that they wanted to ensure that there was as much transparency in the process as was possible, bearing in mind that some of the data is commercial in confidence. So on that note, I think I would like to ask, Chairman, if the board could agree the principles that have been put to us from the Cancer Drugs Fund panel to modify our standard operating procedure for the way we run the Cancer Drugs Fund. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much, Bruce. I'll invite Chief Executive to comment.
Like Bruce, I think this has been a very thorough consultation with a good range of responses. The analysis is in fact now complete. We've got a range of consultation themes that have emerged and are distilled in the paper. Some negative responses, some positive responses. We are highly alert to equality concerns. We also need to ensure the orderly management of an NHS England budget. And I think it's also just worth reminding ourselves that if this proposal was adopted, companies can still price their drugs as they wish, although the pricing decisions that they take may then have consequences for whether it's funded through the Cancer Drugs Fund specifically. So with that, perhaps we should open it to broader comment by the board.
By all means, just I should also emphasise that the standard operating procedure was published as part of the consultation, the draft amendments to it. I've not brought that to the board today because it's at a level of specificity that's more appropriate for executive consideration in light of whatever proposals, recommendations come out of the board. Likewise, the draft guidance, which attaches to it. Also, Bruce has touched upon the analysis of responses to the consultation. I should just assure the board that I've not just read the second paper here, but I've got a much longer study of the representations that were made to the consultation, and I can confirm that the summary that you've got here accurately reflects the wider array. So please may I invite general comments from the board, and then I will try to focus our deliberations on specific points of the paper. David first.
Clearly, thank you, Bruce, for that assignment. I guess my major question is how the board and how you can reassure us that the impact on current and future patients is going to be managed appropriately and people dealt with the right sort of compassion and care. Because clearly this has implications.
In the 5-year forward view, we outlined proposals to move the Cancer Drugs Fund onto a much more sustainable footing. We have the safeguards put in place, which I alluded to, which I think will go some way to ensuring that people get the drugs that they need and that that there is equality of access, if you like, for those people who have rare conditions.
Kieran.
Probably just to follow up on that, I think this is a question rather than a comment. If we go back to the origins of this, it was really around two things. It was what you mentioned, conditions where there is no other treatment, but it was largely, mostly about where that population was very small and NICE either could not or would not evaluate a drug. And therefore people were saying, well, we're not getting it because, it's not being evaluated, not because the clinicians aren't saying it's effective. So in that conversation, and I realise it's a separate process, in the forward view around that sustainable model, are we going to be able to embed those principles in that as well as embedding them in the result of this consultation?
I think that's a key consideration. So it's embedded in the philosophy of the workings of the Cancer Drugs Fund, and we would expect that to be continued forward into any sustainable solution.
Thank you. Right, well, I think the aspect that we must now turn to consider is the proposal that's contained in the paper, and particularly from paragraph 14 onwards. What I would propose in relation to, in particular, paragraph 15, and the draft SOP is that if the board are content to approve the recommendations here, that we would be willing to delegate to the Chief Executive any further revision of the SOP draft that's necessary to reflect this paper, and that the Chief Executive would consult with me for sign-off in order to ensure an appropriate governance loop. Would that be... Okay, so let me just take that step by step. Is the board content with the proposal set out in paragraphs 14 and 15? I would ask you also to note paragraph 16, which is that the SOP does have delegations of authority contained or implied in it, and the board needs to be cognizant of those in signifying its assent to that way of proceeding. Okay, thank you very much. I think we're all conscious that this is a difficult operation, that there has been a wide array of responses in the consultation. Not all of those responses, of course, can be appropriately reflected in the final outcome. The board has to be content, however, that it has listened to the consultation and that the proposals in this paper reflect the proper opinion of the board in light of the consultation as to the future of the Cancer Drugs Fund for this year and the coming year, knowing that there is a longer-term issue which is raised, I think, very well in paragraph 20 of the paper, the fundamental issue raised by many respondents about the overall process of appraising, funding and sustaining routine access to new cancer medicines. Right, well, on that basis, thank you. I think we have done what we needed to do in response to the paper brought to us and the recommendations from the Cancer Drugs Fund panel. Before I close, Simon.
Just one supplementary piece to add to this, not specifically on the Cancer Drugs Fund, and that is that we, NHS England, we as a board recognise that obviously there are many other fronts on which we need to make progress on cancer. Some of those are identified in the 5-year forward view. We are just launching a consultation on further improvements to radiotherapy services, which we know also need to be undertaken as well. So the Cancer Drugs Fund is important as the Cancer Drugs Fund, but we recognise that a much broader range of actions also required.
Good. Thank you.